We have AI adoption of India. That is going to be led from Mr. Ranganathan Sadasiva. I've been talking to him over break. He comes with a very wide experience, in-depth experience on cloud computing, edge, as well as manufacturing pieces as well. So, that's going to be an interesting piece. Last but not the least, we have our dear old Hemant, who's an analyst in ARC, and he's been doing some market research and study as well. So we'll get started. So let's get started with Mr. Sunil David, who will be doing the first presentation, Industrial AI, specifically focusing on manufacturing industry. Over to you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vikram, for that introduction, and good afternoon to all of you. At the outset, I would like to thank the organizers, ARC, Raj, Mr. Raman, and Gina, of course, for inviting me to join this forum and share my thoughts on this topic. Topic which is close to my heart because I work very closely with the manufacturing industry. I know the sector very well. I have in the past associated with Frost & Sullivan as an independent consultant. So through Frost I have done Industry 4.0 assessments for manufacturers. Even now I work with a number of industry bodies like CII, where we do a lot of, we run programs where we are trying to see what is that we can do to really help manufacturers get started on the digital transformation journey and progress. Now, as far as today's agenda is concerned, just very quickly highlight what are some of the key priorities that the manufacturing industry is looking at today, both from an India as well as from a global perspective. I'll talk about some of the key insights from reports from both Rockwell as well as what CII did, basically studying how technology is impacting the manufacturing industry, what are the trends that we are seeing from a tech adoption perspective. And I'm going to spend a lot of my time on this presentation talking about specific examples of companies in India who have adopted AI and adjacent technologies, and have seen the impact, which is important, right? Now, if you just look at the key manufacturing priorities, both from an India as well as global standpoint, number one that is a challenge is getting talent, and especially for manufacturing industry, because not just white-collar workers, not just people with technology skills, data science and AI, but even getting blue-collar workers, getting people to come and work in factories has become a challenge for manufacturers. It is true of India as well, and I have been connected with many CXOs of manufacturing companies, and they have told me this very clearly. It has not been easy to get people. Second is that given the challenges that we are confronted with from an ESG and climate perspective, the need to manage the environment, right? Because there are many manufacturing segments, especially like automotive, pharma, chemical, cement, paper, steel, which are very energy intensive. So the question is, how do you manage your environment? How do you manage the use of water, waste, energy? And here technology plays a big part. You can actually use a combination of technologies that will not just measure amount of consumption of energy, how much of water is being used, but also really work on what is called active decarbonization, where you can actually reduce your energy spend and thereby lower carbon emissions. Third is automation for business value. I think it's a given that you have no choice but to automate. The industry is very competitive, right? And every manufacturer should strive to lower their cost of manufacturing, right? Because India is competing against other larger ecosystems like Vietnam and China. So what is that India can do to really improve our competitiveness? Because there are so many initiatives from the government to really make India a manufacturing hub, making for India and making for the world, right? And they have no choice but to start off their automation and then they progress thereafter. Rise of smart factories, I think with so much of technology is being used today, factories have to be a lot more adaptive. And I was just reading a report from MIT which talked about this whole aspect about adaptive factories, right? The need for manufacturing lines to be very flexible, to adapt to the challenges that we are facing today, right? Supply chains are very complex, and especially in the geopolitical scenario that we're seeing today, it's not easy to get parts. You are all aware of the challenge that we are facing with China. They are not supplying us rare earth magnets. That's impacting the auto industry, right? So we have to deal with the supply chain complexity. plus the overall geopolitical scenario, the tariff issue which is playing out in the US, right? So hence the need to adopt technology, make your factories a lot more flexible, adaptive to what is happening around the external world, right? And also more importantly for manufacturers to really get visibility of their whole OT environment, right? So the rise of smart factories. Two of the bigger companies, we haven't really seen too much of adoption among the medium-sized and the small manufacturers. And the supply chain value, I just talked about it, but the need for manufacturers to really make sure that they have a good visibility of the whole supply chain. Traceability is so critical, and there again a lot of technology, whether it is within the factory, if you have a warehouse which is co-located, or external warehouses, distribution centers where you want to track your inventory. So getting the visibility of raw material coming in, going out is very critical. Now, Rockwell, I think all of you are aware of this name, well-known name in the industrial automation, digital transformation space. They keep doing these studies every year, and just about a few weeks back, they came out with the 10th State of Smart Manufacturing report. This is a report which they publish every year, and they survey more than 1,500 manufacturers globally, including India. They also surveyed 80 manufacturers, large and medium-sized manufacturers, and they came out with some very interesting insights. And I'm only going to talk about what they are saying from an AI standpoint, right? So, interesting, they talk about AI being a challenge as well as a solution. Challenge because while manufacturers really want to adopt AI, they need to build a very strong data foundation to get to a stage where AI can be leveraged. So unless you have a strong, solid data foundation, unless you really get good quality data, auditable data, it's very tough for your AI to really work on, right? So AI is a challenge in terms of making sure that you have the right foundation in place, but it is also an opportunity for manufacturers to really use the power of AI. And interesting that they say that 41% have started to use AI and machine learning one is of course to kind of improve their operational efficiency, improve productivity, but also to address the skill challenges which I talked about as one of the priorities for manufacturers, right? Because you can actually automate a lot of things, and people who have been doing certain manual repetitive tasks can actually be skilled and be redeployed elsewhere, right? So it is addressing to a certain extent the labor shortages, but I would still have to say that human and AI together is a very powerful combination, right? Industry is definitely facing pressure. Today, inflation is a challenge. Raw material costs keep fluctuating day by day, month on month. So that's a challenge that the manufacturers are confronted with. Economic growth, of course, especially with what's playing out in the US, which is so uncertain in terms of the tariffs. Especially if you just look at auto component companies, $2 billion of auto components are exported to the US, and if there's a 26% tariff on that, then obviously it makes India uncompetitive, right? So these are some of these obstacles. And the last point is from this report is smart manufacturing requires more people and not fewer, right? So we are seeing this whole human AI paradigm kind of playing out, right? So when you talk in context of Industry 5.0, and one of the key pillars of that is human centricity, right? So how is that you can equip manufacturers with people who have the right level of skills. This morning there was a presentation by Eva James, who's the Vice President of Nissan, and she had a very interesting slide. She talks about digital tools empower people. Very powerful statement, right? So we really need, and this is a good point that we need more people coming into manufacturing, where the roles within manufacturing are changing. I also would want to say that we need a lot more women in manufacturing. There are hardly any women in this room present, but I strongly believe that they can add a lot of value. It's nice to see some factories, especially in Tamil Nadu, Hosur, I think 80% of the Ola factory is run by women. A couple of other insights from the report. Quality, use of AI for quality is emerged as one of the top use cases, and it is not surprising, right? Especially from a manufacturing standpoint. And some of the other areas where we believe AI and ML can really add value, cybersecurity, given that your OT assets are now exposed to the internet, and you have to change the premise from being just reactive to being more predictive. From a cybersecurity perspective, AI is definitely helping in the cybersecurity side. Process optimization, again very important, and the point which I want to make here is that for any manufacturer, it's extremely important that, and I'm talking from my own experience having assessed various manufacturers, that unless you have robust processes in place, no technology will work, right? So you got to have robust processes, optimize those processes, and then when you add different layers of technology, the impact is even more better. And also interesting and nice to note that 95% have invested in AI and machine learning, Gen AI, and so on. And they have an intent to do that over the next 5 years. So a lot of investment is going into AI. A quick study from what CII did. CII did a study last year in terms of technology investment within manufacturing, and 54% of people who they surveyed Internet of Things has been one of the key areas, and that is important because you need the sensory layer, you need to extract data from the physical environment, and hence you need the sensors, you need the gateways. AI and other technologies come in next. What are the key areas that are benefiting from technology investments after they have implemented? Customer satisfaction, and again we are dealing with customers today who are very demanding, and hence what is that the manufacturers can do to tailor products and services that are more personalized for customers becomes critical, right? And then the other important areas where technology is definitely helping business efficiency and so on. Some very quick use cases where AI can definitely help in manufacturing. I'm not going to go through every point here, but pretty much in all these areas, whether you talk about supply chain management, whether you talk about robots, predictive maintenance, very important use case. Every manufacturer wants to make sure that his machines are running at 100% uptime or close to 100% uptime. Predictive maintenance, order management, quality, and demand prediction. You've got to obviously make sure that you have the right inventory. You don't want to overstock it, because if you are overstocking, then there's a cost to maintain that inventory. That AI is helping here. Now, I'm going to really get to the meat and going to talk about examples now, okay? And before I get to the examples, I just wanted to give you some background. Sometime early this year, CII came up with this initiative to recognize and reward manufacturers in India who are doing some very good work when it comes to preparing for the future and in terms of best practices and how technology is playing a part, right? And so they invited about 50 different manufacturers from across India. They sent their nominations, and they constituted a national jury to evaluate those nominations. I was fortunate enough to be part of that national jury to evaluate all these 50 nominations, and the winners were then, after the evaluation, we had to select the top 5, and they were actually recognized. The number 1 was recognized at the CII Annual Business Summit, which happened in late May. And the award was actually given by Mr. Suman Beri, who was the Vice Chair of Niti Aayog. The Chair of the Niti Aayog was the Prime Minister himself, and here was Suman Beri, the next in command, and he was the one who gave the award. TVS Motors backed that award from Chennai. But I just wanted to highlight, and I presented the TVS use case before, but I just wanted to highlight Hindustan Unilever and a couple of others who also made the nominations, and whose use cases are really very interesting. Some of the systems, this is for the Pondicherry factory. Unilever, as you know, one of India's largest FMCG companies, extremely strong in use of technology, and I must tell you that, you heard of this term called Lighthouse Factory, World Lighthouse Network, right? There are only about 100 odd lighthouse factories in the world, and India has got about 10 or 12 of them. The only FMCG company which has got a lighthouse factory is Hindustan Unilever. And just for the benefit of the audience, a lighthouse factory evaluation goes through a very stringent process. McKinsey and World Economic Forum together send a team to assess the factory and to see to what extent they have used technology, and more importantly, what are the impact after having implemented the technology, right? HUL has got one of the factories listed as lighthouse factories, and pretty much every technology, whether it's sensors and IoT, edge gateways, are all implemented here, and digital twin as well is under implementation. This morning, I think you would have heard of how Renault, Eva was talking about how they built a digital twin of their entire car to help in the design and simulation and all. Quickly running through some use cases. Number 1 use case is video analytics for safer operations. I think one of the biggest use cases today when it comes to use of AI, right? So, and again, I've seen this practically. when I've done assessments, PP compliance, right? A lot of the manufacturing environments are hazardous environments, very important for workers to make sure that they're wearing a helmet, gloves, shoes, and so on and so forth, safety equipment. And especially from a safety perspective, you got to make sure that there is PP compliance. So today, Unilever, they've been using this for a long time. What they're doing is, they are using AI to monitor the camera performance, because when you're capturing images, you got to make sure that cameras are working well, right? Many times what happens is that they have a bunch of CCTV cameras, many of them not working, right? So first thing is to make sure the camera is working well, and then after they have adopted, the camera uptime was monitored, of course, but after they started to implement this whole solution, you can see the impact. They were able to reduce PP violation by 73%. That's staggering, that's huge, right? So this is one. Second is, again, AI-powered quality inspection to reduce wastage. And here, they've been using it to monitor the entire lines. Again, this is in Pondicherry. And here, what they're doing is, they are actually monitoring the camera performance, again, to make sure that it is effective. Second thing is, what they're also doing is, 5 minutes left. Okay. They're using a frame grabber. Frame grabber can be a software module, or it can be in a hardware, it could be a hardware appliance that is capturing the images and sending it to a computer for further processing, right? So they want to make sure, and then they're measuring what is called defects per million units, DPMU, right, to see how many defects, to check if the camera is working well. And then after having done that, they've seen a DPMU reduction by 20% reduction, and the line quality control, manpower, people who are there at the line quality control were redeployed elsewhere because they didn't need so many people, because this system is working very well. Another very widely used use case, especially when you have manufacturers using boilers to generate steam, or air compressors to generate compressed air from a utility standpoint, they were able to improve their boiler optimization for better efficiency. So they were able to improve their steam-air fuel ratio using AI, continuous monitoring of that. They were able to reduce the operational cost of boilers, very expensive. One is the capital cost of boilers plus the cost of maintenance, and not easy to maintain these boilers, but they were able to make sure that they were able to, and boilers obviously consume a lot of fuel in the whole process when they are trying to generate steam, right? And the 4% steam to fuel ratio increase that they have seen. So they have to make sure that whatever fuel that is being used, they generate enough and more steam, they were able to increase that by 4%. Quickly talking about ArcelorMittal, doesn't need introduction, one of the largest steel companies in the country, very nicely articulated map towards digital transformation using pretty much all these technologies. One of the world's first steel mill, also experimenting with 5G, and just quickly wanted to highlight 2 use cases here. They're using AI for improving operational efficiency, to monitor the load monitoring system which is on the crane. If you see that picture there, mainly from a safety perspective, there are a lot of people working around in that area, and hence to make sure that from a safety standpoint, they are able to detect that the load monitoring system has been installed correctly, there is no chance of it to cause any damage or can fall on a person. They're using that to monitor the suspended loads in real time. Okay, and then of course for basic safety alerts, I talked about it earlier also, in the earlier use case when you're using it for PP compliance, here again, they're widely using that. And my last use case is from Tata Motors. And Tata Motors, as you know, is one of India's top 4 automotive manufacturers, right? And it's a very, very competitive industry, automotive industry. And I really like the way Tata Motors went about the whole digital transformation journey, right? So starting off by making sure that they get the right set of partners. They are also someone who is willing to listen to other companies. They've talked to their own sister company, which is Tata Steel, but they've also been talking to TVS and others to learn best practices. Started off by building proof of concepts, testing out the proof of concept, small projects, quick wins, then the progression to horizontal deployment across multiple areas of the factory and across different factories in India. And then the capability building, but you need to have the right level of skills to work on this. And then comes AI, right? So I think it's very important to note that one cannot straight away come and implement AI, right? It has to go through a journey, right? Sensory layer, you build a layer of analytics, get enough data, and over a period of time, once you have enough data, accurate data, authentic data, auditable data, then your AI models are going to be a lot more accurate. And that's how they went about the whole process. Just want to share one use case before I close. In the energy optimization use case, right? Automotive, like some of the other industries, very energy intensive, especially in the paint shop, a lot of consumption of utilities. They have these big blowers which are constantly powering on, sending cooling air to monitor the paint shop. And they went about this whole, monitoring the load. Many times what happens is there are power factor losses, power coming from the grid as it's getting distributed across assets, there are losses there, right? So monitoring the electrical load and then all the other utilities that they are using, propane and other stuff. And the whole objective is not just monitoring of energy, but even trying to make sure that the assets are performing well. Because if there are subsystems within an asset like a machine which has an anomaly, and if it is not detected quickly, it may not bring the machine down, but it can cause an energy spike, right? So they're using there a lot of data to get and using AI to be able to predict when something might go wrong. And the whole AI is weaved into the sustainability strategy, right? So the whole approach is, just not trying to drive energy reduction, but also getting data from energy meters which are connected to all the assets and correlating it with weather information, because certain equipment work well in certain types of weather, and hence to optimize the performance of the equipments working in different environmental conditions, the need to correlate data from multiple sources, and one of them being weather, right? So this is my last slide. Final concluding thoughts. Again, based on my own experience, that adoption of course is low, but a lot more awareness that needs to be created. I think forums like this really help to tell and give the message to manufacturers that they have no choice but to really get started on the AI journey. Sensorization of course is mandatory, because unless you extract data using sensors, you're not getting the data, and the cost for sensors, the cost of IoT gateways has come down a lot. So that is enough of a driver to really get started when it comes to using IoT to monitor your physical assets. And I mentor startups at T-Hub, which is India's largest startup incubator. I engage with a lot of other startups as well from other ecosystems. I've seen some of the very good innovative solutions some of these startups offer, and hence it's nice for manufacturers to really see how they can collaborate and partner with these startups. They bring in a lot of new ideas, a lot of innovation, new ways of solving problems. So good for manufacturers to consider working with the startups ecosystem. And I think it's important to latch onto the AI wave, right? So you don't want to get drowned. You want to latch onto the wave and ride on it and succeed. So on that note, I'd like to conclude my session. Thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you very much, Sunil. Thank you for this wonderful